Hello, this is your video on previewing a text, active reading. You have in Canvas access to this article. It's called The Higher Education and the Opportunity Gap. The author's name is Isabel V. Sawhill with the date there. You can see Brookings, and actually if you do what is necessary to find out what you're reading and who produced it, you would click About Us to see the Brookings Institution is a nonprofit, blah, 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 and you could read more about this, and then you'd have quite a lot of information about who they're writing for and what their purpose is. Now, were you to make this part of a bibliography or works cited page, you type it out in this fashion: Sawhill, Isabel, title of the work, Brookings Institution. You call it a report by the Brookings Institution because that's what it is. The date of publication, 8 October 2013. This is how we do it in the style of MLA, or Modern Language Association, and the word web to show that we got it on the internet. Okay, but I'm not going to look over here because I find that too distracting. I've made a text file. So what do you do when you are previewing a text? Number one, you want to know who is this person, so you would perhaps Google this name to see what you could discover about Isabel Sawhill, find out what her credentials are, what her interests are. You'd look, of course, at the title, Higher Education and the Opportunity Gap, and you'd ask yourself, okay, what's this about? Higher education, that means college, that means university. Opportunity gap, what does that mean? Are there people who are more likely to be able to take advantages of the opportunities offered in higher education than others? Well, actually, yes. Anyway, so higher education and the opportunity gap, which sounds, of course, like a problem. Opportunity gap, when you live in a democracy and people are supposed to have equal access to the good things, a gap is a problem. Brookings Institution, we would ought to know what else can we learn about the Brookings Institution. Do they seem to be left-leaning, right-leaning? Do they seem to be a philanthropic institution? Do they work to help people? Do they have an interest in education, medicine? Are they more worried about taxpayer money than they are about government service? It's something you'd want to know. And so, what do we do? Okay, when we're previewing a text, one of the things that we'd want to look for immediately, if there is such a thing, is any kind of graphs or images, because those very often give us an indication about the content. This, of course, doesn't have any. Well, because I copied and pasted it into a Word file, as you can see. Were there any in the original page? You want to go back and look, but I think mostly it was blank. Okay, so that's one thing. Well, is that the only thing? Next, what you want to look for is things that look like subheadings. Should everyone go to college? That's a question that we imagine is going to be discussed in these paragraphs. And what other information do we have? The essay was originally published in the College Board volume, so that's something to know as well. Who reads that? We can see that there's a references page and that there are several sources that are consulted for this work. We can also see that here, that Sawhill references herself along with other authors. So this is what we could pretty much look at and say, this is written by an academic. This is written by a specialist in the field. This is not written by a journalist. It's written by somebody who has devoted a good portion of her lifetime to probably the study of education. Should everyone go to college? Getting ahead or losing ground, economic mobility in America. It seems like she's been studying the same topic, let's see, 2008, for a number of years. Anyway, all right, what else can we do to get the gist of what's going on in this article? Well, I recommend that one thing that's good to do is to look at the first sentences of some of the paragraphs, specifically the opening few paragraphs, which is usually where an introduction or background information will be offered. America faces an opportunity gap. That's the first claim. And the first sentence of the next one. The obvious solution would seem to be this. First, encourage more low-income children to go to college. Low income, there's a clue. The opportunity gap probably has something to do with the parents' income. Second, finance their education in order to narrow the opportunity gap. Okay, so, but we do that, right? We have these things called Pell Grants and whatnot. A strategy that policymakers have been pursuing for the past few decades. Yes, this is correct. Okay, so there is a lot of interest in, of course, figuring out how to make opportunities for college a bit more equal. Okay, now she's saying that there's a flaw in the argument of encouraging low-income children to go to college, a flaw in the argument of providing them with financial aid. The flaw is this simple argument. In the simple argument is that the primary problem is no longer enrollment, it is completion. What does that mean? What she's saying is that low-income students are enrolling in higher education and they are not finishing. Should everyone go to college? Well, what she seems to be suggesting here, I suppose, is that for the people who are not likely to complete college, maybe she thinks that college is not for everyone. Okay. Then I would scroll down. It looks like I have the gist of it, so I'd go to maybe the last 3 or 4 paragraphs and see what the topic sentences are, right? The first sentences in the paragraphs, that's a doozy. There is no question that the workforce of the future will need more education, but some of that education may be more effectively provided in high school. So she wants to redistribute knowledge, it looks like, and shift a bit more of the education burden down into high school rather than putting so very much of it in college. Some of that education may be more effectively provided in high school and career and technical education programs. Okay. Do you need a college education to do physical work? Do you need a college education to do handwork, to be a carpenter, to be a plumber? Well, not really, right? Maybe high schools should help prepare the students that are perhaps not likely to finish college, help prepare them to go into a career where they can be successful and perhaps quite a lot faster than by going through college. Okay, programs customized to provide skills that employers need and through inexpensive online learning. Well, hello, I'm teaching some of those classes, rather than in traditional college classrooms. That said, I don't really see how the online learning is less expensive than the face-to-face learning. I know it takes me 5 or 10 times longer to make those classes, but this isn't about me. Over the long term, the focus needs to be on improved productivity in the higher education system. Okay, so it's suggesting perhaps there's a bit of excess. Maybe there are things we do in college that maybe we don't really necessarily need to do, but I don't know what exactly that would be. Okay, in summary, I have argued that despite our dedication to the idea of a higher education system open to all, we are not doing a very good job of leveling the playing field. Leveling the playing field. What does that mean? Making opportunities equal. Okay, so with those processes, right, looking at who's the author, looking up the author on Google, looking at the source of the article, the Brookings Institution and the original publication in the College Board. These are things I could look at. I could look at who reads those things and get a sense about who Isabel Sawhill is trying to persuade. And by looking for things like subheadings and first sentences in the first few paragraphs of the essay, and first sentences in the last few paragraphs of the essay. I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what this essay is going to cover, and I could sit down now and I could ask questions like, what does Sawhill identify as problems with high school education? What does Sawhill identify as problems with college education? Why does Sawhill think low-income students are not completing a college education? And see if I could answer those questions, okay? So asking questions. And these are the ways that I would preview this essay. I would write down those questions, and once I have them in front of me, I would read this essay looking for those answers.